Welcome to Becoming More You, nurturing personal identity beyond homeschool mom, exploring your creativity, your self awareness, and your boundaries. I'm so glad you're here. I'm Teresa Wedrick, the certified life coach and homeschool mentor, and recently graduated homeschool mom to 4 kids. 3 are fully grown and across the country doing various trainings and post secondary training, and my youngest is 15. I live in British Columbia, Canada, and I've been homeschooling for less than 2 decades and have been writing for the entire time I've been homeschooling, as well as in the last 5 years, I have moved into podcasting, writing on my website, capturingthecharmedlife.com, and offering seminars around the world, one-on-one coaching and group coaching programs. Why does it even matter that you develop an identity outside of your homeschool mom role? I'll give you 4 reasons. The first is personal fulfillment. It might not seem obvious right now that you need to nurture the you that is you outside of your mom role, but as a mother of now almost 23 years, I have learned that there is someone there that is a person outside being a mother altogether. This home education mom role is even more demanding and consuming, and you lose sight of who you are and your interests. And though you may have rediscovered certain interests like Lego building, or watching certain movies, or reading certain books, or playing certain games that you didn't know that you loved until you began homeschooling, there's also some interests and some elements of you that are you outside that mom role. Personal fulfillment lets you tap into your passions, which gives you a greater sense of purpose and contentment. It also helps to foster your mental and emotional well-being. Having a really strong personal identity creates a sense of separateness. It prevents you from burnout because you know when you are losing you. And as you and I both know, there are a lot of stressors or challenges in the homeschool mom life. It helps prevent emotional or mental health breakdowns, burnout maybe, so that we don't feel overwhelmed. We don't feel like we're losing ourselves in that role. So it helps preserve that mental and emotional well-being. Obviously, it also is a really healthy role model. It shows our kids how to balance the personal pursuits with also the responsibilities that we have as mother. It teaches them the importance of wellness, pursuing our own interests outside of the family unit, finding a sense of self beyond a specific role. And I believe it improves relationships, helping to identify beyond the homeschool mom role helps to really nurture the nurturer so that you can also participate in the shared interests and passions you have more intentionally. It can foster a strong sense of your own self within your relationship. It helps to lead maybe to healthier connections, especially with those outside of your home and with your partner, not necessarily always with just your kids. It makes you feel like you have a place to be sometimes if some of those interests outside of your home are also in another social sphere, so therefore widening your circle. I see these personal fulfillment, maintaining mental and emotional well-being, healthy role modeling, and improved relationships as huge benefits for you as you're homeschooling your kids. This seminar, this is what we're going to do. My intention is to introduce you to the concept of an identity beyond your role as a homeschool mom. And I'll do that through engaging discussion points, reflective exercises, and practical strategies. I'll introduce you to the 4 pillars of building your personal identity. These are those. The first is fostering your creativity, following your rabbit trails. The second is to practice self awareness strategies. The third is to set healthy boundaries. And the fourth is to discover the immense value of your own personal growth journey if you're not already doing it. So join me as we begin to learn more about nurturing the nurturer, nurturing your unique identity beyond the homeschool mom role. It's my intention in less than a couple of minutes to explain the concept of personal identity, but there are entire university classes on this one subject. There probably are options to do PhDs in some universities around the world. So I'm only going to introduce this to you briefly. 4 different elements of personal identity. The first is known as something like individual essence, like who you are, the collection of unique characteristics or beliefs or values or experiences or interests that define you at your core. Then there is that distinctiveness that encompasses who you are apart from others. It includes your sense of self or your personality traits, your life experiences that shape that distinct sense of self. Then there is the discussion of self-perception, how you actually view yourself, how you view your strengths and weaknesses, and your understanding of your place in the world. And then also there's a discussion on evolutionary nature. Personal identity is not static. It evolves over time through experiences and interactions and various things that we learn and self-discovery. And it continues to shape you. You aren't who you were when you were 15, and you probably won't be who you are when you're 56, unless you're 56 now. So these are the 4 elements of personal identity. And I did it under 2 minutes. Something we encourage our kids all the time is their curiosity. We are looking for ways to get them motivated to fully embrace their world. And so we try to get out of their way so that they can do interesting, curious things. And I want to do that for you too. I think you will feel so much more alive if you are fostering your own creativity. So when I say fostering creativity, what's the first thing that you are thinking about? What's creative to you? Because I remember a long time ago when someone said, just pursue a creativity. I thought, I am not creative. I've since learned that this is very much not true. I've done all sorts of things that are creative. And I'm sure that you are as well. But you have a unique creativity, maybe a unique creativity that most people don't even identify as creative. But I'm curious, what would you say is your natural tendency towards creativity? So the goal is to foster creativity because it makes you feel like you've come alive. Our goal is to just explore and be curious. We don't have to deep dive into something, just like we know that our child might be interested in digging up archaeological things in the backyard, but it doesn't mean that they're going to be 35 pursuing their PhD in geology. So what curiosities do you have? Maybe that you could include in your regular routine. Like you've got an interest in the top of your head. What's the first thing you're thinking of? Or is there a hobby or an activity that you miss or that you haven't been recently including, but you definitely want to this year? Consider just embracing a playful approach, even if you tell yourself on Friday, Fun Friday is what I used to call it. And it was really more like Fun Morning Friday. But every Fun Friday, we would just embrace more of a playful mindset around learning. We'd include more games. And I would always make sure that whatever we were doing was just fun. This took me years to include, I might add. That was not my natural tendency. But embrace playfulness. Look for things that are outside your normal rhythm or experience. Like, get inspiration from things like the arts or certain disciplines that you hadn't considered before. Perhaps you would include something you love to do in your morning circle time with the kids. That was for me, it was fine art and learning about art history. Include that because you like it. Set aside special time just for you, though. Even if it's just 15 minutes a week to do something outside of your homeschool mom role, or if you can get more time, definitely do that. The key is to leave the house. The key is not to be locked in a basement. It isn't about having a space in the backyard. It is about leaving so nobody can access you and you are not thinking about them at all hours of the day. So, setting aside time once a week just to do whatever it is you love to do. Pursue some creativity or curiosity. Have an open mindset. You do not need to do this forever. You do not need to make a commitment. You just need to play, have fun, be curious. And then perhaps after a couple of months, you could look back and say, what am I doing for me? What do I love about this creativity? What have I learned from this experience? Perhaps I could do something in a different direction, or how could I add to what I'm already doing? Can I spend more time doing it? Is there a way I could incorporate the kids in it, maybe? How could I show them that this is something that I love? And how can I continue to build upon the thing that is uniquely me? If you really want to get to know yourself, you need to set aside time to be with yourself. So here are a few different ways you could approach getting to know you. Unless you think you do know you, let me tell you, girlfriend, if I asked you a few things about yourself, do you know for sure that you have an answer to what I would love to do when my kids are all grown up and I have swaths of time? Do you know what favorite ice cream you have? Do you know what triggers you toward anxiety and anger and sadness and all the feelings? We could go for days. I could be asking you numerous questions about who you are, but it doesn't take very much for us to get caught up in the mom role to really not even know exactly where we put the keys, let alone what we want to do for the rest of our life. So I encourage you to build in self-awareness strategies like the following: a mindfulness practice. I encourage homeschool moms to grab their phone and schedule a mindful moment in their phone. Oftentimes, I'm speaking to including that mindful moment in their days so that they can remember to check in with themselves and ask themselves, how am I feeling right now? What are my thoughts right now? How does my body feel? If you're feeling anxious or angry or sad or some significantly big emotion, big uncomfortable emotion, you can ask yourself, what were the thoughts behind that emotion? Is that thought true? Am I 100% certain it's true? Who am I when I believe that thought? That's one way to approach mindfulness. You can also do body scans, do deep breathing techniques, learn to meditate, various different things, but to really come into your body, feel what's going on inside of you. Another opportunity is to grab a journal. If you're maintaining a regular journaling practice, recording your thoughts and your feelings and your experiences, you're getting to know you. And you, if you're challenged by a particular pattern of emotional reactions, you actually can get insight as you continue to write in your journal. You'll start to notice patterns. But you'll also Start to notice seasonal patterns in how you show up in your homeschool days. Are you influenced by the slump month season? Does it bother you when there's less sun? Do you love the winter weather and you can play outside all day? You're happier then than you are in the summer. Okay, I only know one person in my world that sees life that way, but I am in a part of Canada that I actually get to enjoy winter and summer, and I'm so grateful that it's fairly reasonable no matter the season. But just knowing who you are, how you interact with the seasons, how you interact with different people, how you interact in your cycle, how you interact with certain relationships, it's really useful to you to recognize your patterns. So consider including a daily journaling practice. And if you don't know where to start with a journaling practice, in the last 2 years, I've developed all sorts of journals related to specific topics like building boundaries or dealing with your big emotions. There's a daily homeschool mom journal. There's a building boundaries at the holidays journal. I've created a journal dedicated just to fostering your creativity. There's another one that's dedicated to reimagining your homeschool life. I've got all sorts of journals, so you should definitely check my journals designed just for you on Etsy at Homeschool Mama Self Care or on my website at www.capturingthecharmedlife.com. What you can also do as a self-awareness strategy is to ask for feedback. Depends on who you're asking, though. It needs to be someone that you trust and you feel comfortable with. Asking them to help you understand your personal strengths and areas for growth is very helpful. You can also obviously include self-observation, you looking at your own reactions and behaviors in various situations and asking yourself, where could you grow? Where do you want to grow? You can ask yourself a few questions about your beliefs and values and goals. This is something that I do every post-Christmas, is have a re-envision group coaching intensive to do a deep dive into what your intentions are over the coming year. And since this is a seminar post-Christmas, post-holiday season, I encourage you to either use the Reimagine Your Homeschool Journaling workbook, or you can listen to a podcast episode between me and Sarah Susanka from The Not So Big Life. She's the author of the book, The Not So Big Life. At the end of the book, The Not So Big Life, she has probably 6 or 7 pages of questions that help you to do a deep dive into your beliefs and values and goals. You can also include a mindfulness or mindful listening practice, actively listening to yourself, which is tricky to do since you have kids around you all the time. And that's why it's useful to either develop a regular time away routine or a morning routine so that you can spend time with yourself, to retreat with yourself, becoming honest and acknowledging what's really going on in there and pouring to your heart. So you can learn to connect in with you. When you begin to do these or include these self-awareness strategies, you are going to get a whole lot clearer on who you are. One of the things that we need to do to develop our personal identity or a sense of self beyond the homeschool mom role is to develop boundaries or bolster our boundaries. This is a group coaching program that I offer every year to homeschool moms who are challenged by relationships with others and sometimes relationships with themselves. Okay, let me just help you get clear on what I'm speaking to when I'm talking about developing boundaries. It's not just about saying no to somebody else. There's a whole bunch more beyond that discussion. One is to recognize limits, to acknowledge that you have personal limits, and for you to understand what's acceptable in various aspects of your life, in either how you speak to others, how you express your emotions, how you include certain time, or whether you honor time in a certain way, managing your time or managing your commitments. Another is a discussion on communication, the one that everybody thinks that I'm speaking to when I talk about boundaries. Learning to clearly communicate the difference between someone else and you. In other words, saying, nope, you have overstepped a boundary. You've overstepped how you've spoken to me in a disrespectful way. You've, not engaged in some way that I feel is acceptable or appropriate. Also, to communicate your needs, to communicate your expectations in a respectful way. Another element of building boundaries is to prioritize your self-care, because you'll know you have boundary issues if you are not honoring your needs. You need to create space for the things that you need. And as I've said on repeat, you can no longer care about your needs when you no longer are a human being. But if you're a human being, even in a mothering form, you still have needs. You have to honor your needs. Of course, you need to learn to say no at times and feel empowered and not guilty because you said no. No is a complete sentence. You need to learn to be consistent in upholding your boundaries. Just yesterday, I was sharing with a mom who is beginning the practice of including interesting things or curious things for her. And she said, well, maybe I'll just pick up my knitting needles again, even though she has two 2-year-olds and two older kiddos. And she really does find it challenging to do anything outside of her kids, of course. She's practicing picking up her needling or her knitting needles and learning to crochet and say the words, I love you, honey, but when mommy picks up the knitting needles, she's going to do some knitting. And I would like you to go play over there with the toy that I brought out that was just for these 5 minutes. And you get to go play over there, and I'm going to sit here quietly and knit by myself. Now, you and I both know that two twin 2-year-olds and two older kids, there's no way that she's immediately going to get that 5 minute of knitting time alone. But what I've learned is that as homeschool parents, we are available to our kids all the time, literally all the time. So we need to teach them when we are unavailable unless there is a fire in the house. And it will take a while, so you need to maintain consistency in building those boundaries. And then again, you can evaluate and adjust those boundaries if after 3 months you realize that this isn't really serving you and your kids. You need to make an adjustment in that boundary and shift so that it suits your needs and your kids' needs. But we need to build boundaries in order to become more us. Now, I find this an especially interesting and fun activity is doing these self-reflection exercises. There are a variety of exercises that we can include. One is called aspiration mapping. So what you do is you're creating a visual map or a collage showing all the interests. I don't know if you've ever heard of a vision board, or there's various terms that different people use for this, but you can, include your personal goals, dreams, hobbies, the things you want to achieve, your bucket list, all the things, and put it on a map. You could also have a timeline of your passions. Create an actual timeline of the significant moments or interests that have been part of your life. Put them on a timeline, just like you might see in a Charlotte Mason timeline, except that it's your life and it's showing how your passions or interests have evolved over time. I can use me as an example. When I was about 7, I began journaling, and every morning I would write, I woke up, I made my bed, and I brushed my teeth. Now, fast forward more than a couple decades, now that I'm 50, I do all sorts of writing. every single day. In fact, solidly a third of my day is spent writing, creating a podcast episode, a YouTube or social media post, a blog post, a seminar, a something. An email to a coaching client. I've got so many possible reasons to write. So if I were to look over the life of my writing, it would have included many things in between, but there was a gradual development towards writing a book and a podcast and courses and coaching emails. It transitioned over time. So, what would you put on your timeline? We could also learn to clarify your values. If you head over to the internet, which you probably have readily available right here, check for a list of values, print it off, and use a highlighter to highlight the, say, top 10 most important things or values that reflect you. And then after you've got your 10, try to whittle that down to 3. You probably won't be surprised if you know me from any other scenario that for me, the top 3 values that I have are authenticity, purposefulness, and confidence. Or you could say intentionality versus purposefulness, but authenticity, intentionality, and confidence. These are the 3 things that I walk alongside other homeschool moms to help infuse in them as well. So my goal is to support you, to walk alongside you, if you choose to do that with me, so that you can grow in confidence, authenticity, and purpose. So try to clarify your top 3 values. Then you could do a future self-visualization exercise. This is something that I do in coaching. It's also something that I do in the Building Boundaries group coaching. It's that we want to envision what our ideal future selves will be. Of course, I believe we are always growing and evolving, so I'm not sure that we're ever getting to that complete state here, but wherever we focus is where we go. Have you ever tried to drive at night and somebody's lights are so bright in the oncoming vehicle that you naturally want to drive toward them? That's why we shouldn't have brights on when we're driving near someone else. And that's our instinct. When we focus on those lights, we want to move toward those lights. So whatever we focus on is the thing that we're going to move toward. So who do you want to be in 5 years? Who do you want to be in 15 years? Grab your journal, write it down, pause the video, spend 5 minutes just wondering. Explore what you want to do, how you want to feel, what you want to have accomplished. You can also include a passion inventory, creating a list of activities or interests that make you feel passionate, followed by a time for reflection where you can actually look at each of those activities or interests and say, when was the last time I actually pursued them? How did you feel when you pursued them? And of course, I'm going to say to you, girlfriend, find a time this week. Find a place and a time to include them this week. I'm going to tell you something straight up. I don't believe in balance. I know it's a scientific concept, but as a homeschool mom, I don't think it's a thing. I think we need to be fully present in whatever we're doing. And we also get to determine what are the most important things we want to include in our life. But how do we include both these things? Time for ourselves to develop ourselves, and also all the other stuff, all of our homeschool responsibilities and house cleaning and driving kids to places and all the stuff. How do we, quote unquote, balance all of that? One of the first tools you can use is time blocking. the most valuable tool I've incorporated into my homeschool working mom life is to determine how much time in a day do I want to spend working? How much time in a day do I want to spend sweeping? Trick question. How much time in the week do I want to sweep? You get to decide specific time slots in your schedule, which can be dedicated to the things you have to do that you see as valuable have to do's because they serve, like, sweeping once a week so you can keep away the, social worker. And also, perhaps you don't see it as a non negotiable to spend time reading quietly in the evenings. Then block it in. Or maybe there's certain appointments that you have to bring your child to the OT. Block it in. You're creating specific time dedicated to certain things. And you can also block in a morning quiet time or a quiet time away or a time to build in your interests, whatever you want to call it, but create time that's dedicated to your personal growth too. You can learn how to batch tasks, like certain homeschooling activities. Certainly, you've probably been introduced to the idea of not teaching history to your 4 kids with 4 different curriculums. You want to batch the task. Not only can you batch the task, I mean, obviously it's a useful tool to batch that, approach to homeschool studies, but it's actually a lot more interesting to do deep dives into certain things with all the kids. And if you wonder whether the kids are learning enough, they really are. Sometimes I think it's the youngest kids that get the best education in a homeschool because they absorb everything that's going on like a semi-permeable membrane. Biology was my favorite. So batch tasks. Learn to be flexible with your scheduling. The least strong character trait I have is being flexible. I like doing what I'm doing and I don't want to be interrupted and I want to do it until I'm done. And it turns out I'm a homeschool mom, or I was for many years, and I didn't have a choice but to learn to be flexible because stuff happened that required my attention immediately. You know exactly what I'm referring to. This is our experience. So we have to learn to be flexible, to actually say, maybe I can't do everything on my list today, but maybe over the course of time, if I include a routine that reflects the things that are the most important to me, then I will get a load of things done. Use resources, learn from other people, whether it's workshops or online resources or courses or personal development courses. And by the way, you are most welcome to check out all the things that I have to offer, but use these as a way to both get time away, to build into yourself, and to learn more about yourself. And might I suggest a spring or fall retreat, whether that is with me or that is you heading out for an entire day by yourself with a journal. Maybe you're going to do a little shopping and walking around a lovely park or anything that you like doing just for a day, to not do your typical routine, and then just look at your life in full and say, is it reflecting what I really want in my life right now? A self-reflection check-in. These are a few different ways that you can balance personal growth and your homeschool responsibilities. This is what I've seen, is that these 3 are the pillars of you becoming you. Fostering your creativity, because creativity is the canvas upon which personal identity paints its story. Self-awareness, because that is your compass guiding your personal journey. Boundaries, bolstering or building boundaries, because boundaries are the guardians keeping the essence of you intact. Creativity, self-awareness, and boundaries are the pillars to you becoming more you. Okay, lady, I want to hear, what are you going to do to commit to you becoming more you? I'm showing you a picture of me sitting in my walk-in closet. This is me in about March 2020. Most of, I don't know, that year I was in this closet because I had, not coincidentally, 1 month previous, started a podcast and it's got great sound. So I introduced many people to Studio C. There is, you can see on the right side, there's an ironing board. It no longer exists because I don't think I've been ironing for a decade, but I kept it for the longest time. And right now, at the present recording, I have loads of stocking stuffers before Christmas, getting ready to be put under the Christmas tree. This is Studio C, and this is a place where I help to walk alongside other homeschool moms to become more them and to support them in their homeschool mom journey. But this is also a place of my personal growth. Because if you listen to the original episodes on my podcast, Homeschool Mama Self Care, you're going to hear a much more timid, uncertain Teresa. And now you're going to see a much more confident, though people tell me very soothing. I don't know that my children agree with this, but they hear a very soothing voice and they hear someone that is much more confident and direct. This is the place in my home that I have grown the most, my closet, Studio C, as I have leaned into my own creativity in my podcasting realm, in my coaching realm, and all things online. It's been a huge jump over the last 4 or 5 years of building a business, supporting other women, and doing all the things I do online. And it has been a very satisfying one. This has been my commitment to me. Now, I want to know, what's your commitment to you? Who are you? Who are you when you do not have all the demands around you? Who are you when you have opportunity to do something creative? What are you doing and what will you do to foster your personal growth? Are there areas you need to build or bolster your boundaries? I would love to hear if you'd share in the comment section below your story. I'd love to meet you too. If we haven't met, I'm Teresa Wedrick. I am the certified life coach and homeschool mentor over at www.capturingthecharmedlife.com. I host a podcast, Homeschool Mama Self Care, and my mission is to empower homeschool moms by helping them unearth what they already know, guiding them to overcome self-imposed obstacles, and enabling them to live their lives on purpose. Sometimes I'm coaching around boundary challenges. Sometimes it's about exploring unique identity or supporting the discovery of that person's life purpose. Sometimes I'm talking about deschooling, and sometimes I'm talking about child-led learning and just doing general homeschool mentoring. I also understand the significance of navigating all the intricacies of homeschooling and family life and how to be in your family but still address your needs. Because ultimately, I want you to live with authenticity, confidence, and purpose. So if we haven't met, it's nice to meet you. To be yourself in a world where we can be ourselves, that is constantly trying to make you something else, is the greatest accomplishment, said Ralph Waldo Emerson. I know how challenging it is to try to show up for yourself as a person outside the homeschool mom role, partly because there's just a lot of demands, expectations from you and from others, and also it's just a lot of fun hanging out with our kids, building memories, learning together. You can be you, and I encourage you to lean in to becoming more you, homeschool mama. If you're interested in learning more about these topics, you can head over to my website, www.capturingthecharmedlife.com, or you can book a conversation to consider life coaching with me. You'll find the Calendly link below. In this 2024 homeschool year, I wish for you that you, homeschool mama, can turn all your homeschool challenges into your homeschool charms. You've got this, girlfriend.